Picture this, you're 25 years old. You finally get that first decent paycheck. You do exactly what your dad told you to do. You put a chunk of it into a safe investment, maybe a standard index fund, maybe a bond. You feel responsible. You feel like an adult. You pat yourself on the back because you know the math. If I get a 7% return, my money doubles every 10 years. So you wait, you grind. Fast forward 10 years, you're 35 now. You check the account. Boom, the money doubled. You have exactly twice as many dollars as you started with. Success, right? Then, you go to the grocery store, you try to buy a house, you look at the price of a used Toyota Camry, and you realize something that makes your stomach drop. You have twice the money, but you can buy less stuff than you could 10 years ago. Here's the thing, we've been lied to. Not out of malice, but out of habit. We've been taught that the rule of 72, the math of doubling your money, is the golden ticket to wealth. But in an economy where inflation is sticky, where housing costs are outpacing wages, and where the dollar just isn't what it used to be, doubling your money is no longer the goal. It's the bare minimum for survival. If you want to actually be wealthy, you need to stop thinking about 72 and start thinking about 115. My name is Marco, and I spend way too much time thinking about how inflation is quietly eroding your future freedom. If you're someone who feels like you're saving money but getting further away from your goals, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Welcome back to Unbroke. Today we aren't just doing math, we are rewriting the rulebook. Look, before we tear it down, we have to respect the classic. For decades, the rule of 72 was the quick mental math trick every investor used. It's simple. You take the number 72, divide it by your annual interest rate, and that tells you how many years it takes to double your money. For example, you get a 7% return, 72 divided by 7 equals 10.2 years. Or, let's say you find a crazy investment paying 10%, 72 divided by 10 equals 7.2 years. It's elegant, it's clean. And for a long time, specifically in the 80s and 90s when interest rates were high and purchasing power was relatively stable, it worked. It made people feel safe. They'd think, I'll just double my money 3 times before I retire, and I'm set. But here's what most people don't realize. The rule of 72 only measures nominal wealth. That's the number on the screen. It does not measure real wealth, which is what you can actually trade that money for. Let's be real for a second. If your bank account balance doubles, but the cost of a house triples, did you get richer or did you get poorer? This is where it gets really interesting, and honestly, a little scary. Let's look at the data. We just lived through a period where inflation hit 8, 9, even 10% in some sectors. Even if the Fed says inflation is back down to 3%. That doesn't mean prices went down. It just means they're going up slower than last year. The damage is already baked in. Let's say you use the rule of 72. You invested $50,000. 10 years later, you have $100,000. You feel great. But over those same 10 years, let's say average inflation was 3.5%. That $100,000 you have now, in terms of purchasing power compared to when you started, it's only worth about $70,000. You didn't double your wealth. You increased your purchasing power by maybe 40%. And that's before we talk about taxes. Now you might be thinking, Marco, 40% is still good. Sure, it's better than zero. But is it financial freedom money? Is it quit your job and travel money? No, it's keep working until you're 70 money. And that brings me to the shift we need to make today. If the rule of 72 calculates how long it takes to double your money, the rule of 115 calculates how long it takes to triple your money. Why triple? Because in the modern economy, with the combination of inflation, taxes, and the skyrocketing cost of assets, like real estate, tripling is the new doubling. Here's the formula: 115 divided by your interest rate equals years to triple your money. Let's run the numbers, and I want you to really pay attention to the difference here. Let's stick with that average market return of roughly 8 to 10%. Let's be conservative and say 8%. First, the rule of 72, doubling, 72 divided by 8 equals 9 years. Result, $10,000 becomes $20,000. Now, the rule of 115, tripling, 115 divided by 8 equals 14.3 years. Result, $10,000 becomes $30,000. Wait, you say, Marco, obviously it takes longer to triple money than double it. What's your point? The point is the psychological target. If you are aiming for a timeline based on the rule of 72, you are aiming too low. You are planning your retirement based on a 2x multiplier, when you simply won't have enough purchasing power. You need to structure your portfolio and your life so that you can hit the rule of 115 targets within a reasonable time frame. Let's make this practical. This is literally me explaining this to my friends who ask why I'm so aggressive with my savings rate. Most people look at the rule of 115 and think, okay, to triple my money faster, I need to take huge risks to get higher returns. Wrong. This is the biggest mistake I see. You don't need to find a magical crypto coin that does a 100x. You need to understand how compound interest accelerates at the back end. Look at the math of 115 again. If you can bump your portfolio return from 6% to 10%, at 6%, it takes 19 years to triple your money. 115 divided by 6. That's too slow. At 10%, it takes 11.5 years to triple your money. 115 divided by 10. That is a massive difference. Almost a decade of your life bought back just by optimizing your portfolio allocation. But here's the kicker. What if you want to triple your money in 7 years? 115 divided by x equals 7. You'd need a roughly 16.4% return. Good luck getting a consistent 16% return without gambling. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I can get you 16% guaranteed. I'm not a guru. I'm just a guy who can read a calculator. So, if we can't easily force the rate up to 16%, we have to look at the other variable, the input. The rule of 115 teaches us that waiting for our money to triple on its own takes too long. We have to help it along. I want to talk about why we cling to the rule of 72. It's comfortable. Doubling sounds nice. It feels achievable. When we strive for the rule of 115, tripling, it feels greedy, or it feels impossible. There's a psychological concept called anchoring. We are anchored to the nominal prices of the past. You remember when a candy bar was 50 cents? You remember when rent was $800? So when you see $100,000 in your account, your brain emotionally values it like it's 2010. But the market doesn't care about your feelings. The market cares about liquidity and supply. To break this, you have to adopt an abundance mindset, grounded in math. You aren't being greedy by wanting to triple your wealth. You are simply trying to maintain your standard of living in a world that is constantly trying to discount it. So, how do we actually use this? I don't want you to just watch this video and go back to scrolling. Here are 3 steps to apply the rule of 115 today. Number 1. Audit your safe money. Look at your cash savings. Look at your bonds. If they are earning 4%, then run the rule. 115 divided by 4 equals roughly 28 years. It will take nearly 30 years to triple that money. By the time that happens, inflation will have eaten 60 or 70% of the value. Action. You need to move long-term money out of safe 4% accounts. You can't afford safety that costs you 30 years. Number 2. The rule of 115. Check on debt. This works for debt too, by the way, and it's terrifying. If you have a credit card with 23% interest, 115 divided by 23 equals 5 years. If you make minimum payments, the debt triples in 5 years. Action. Use this math to get angry at your debt. Visualize it tripling. Kill it. Number 3. Recalibrate your freedom number. If you thought you needed $1 million to retire, use the tripling mindset. 1 million today buys you a middle-class retirement. If you are 20 years away from retirement, you need to aim for 3 million to have that same lifestyle. Adjust your monthly contributions until your projection hits the rule of 115 target. Here's the bottom line. The rule of 72 was built for a world that moved a little slower, a world where a job was for life and a dollar saved was a dollar earned. We don't live in that world. We live in a high-velocity, high-inflation, high-opportunity world. Don't settle for doubling. Doubling is maintenance, tripling is progress. If you shift your mindset from 72 to 115, you aren't just changing the math, you're changing the trajectory of your entire life. My name is Marco. This has been Unbroke. If you want to stop calculating and start living, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next one.